From charging to housing.
Very much. To use this mic there or use the button?
Yeah, as long as you put up.
Thanks very much for having me today. And as Stephen said, I'm Ashley Campbell. I'm the Policy Practice Manager at the Department of Housing in Scotland. And this session is on delivering the homes that we need. And the Scottish Government has committed to delivering 110,000 affordable homes over 10 years. That's 11,000 homes per year. And those are just affordable and social homes. Obviously, we need private housing on top of that as well. Research that we published a couple of years ago with the SJ and Shelter suggested that we need 15,300 homes every year to meet total housing need. But there are huge financial challenges in delivering those homes. There are also social and demographic challenges as well. Population is aging, the way that we live and work is changing, so what do we want county cities to look like in the future? And how to make sure that we're delivering the right homes in the right places to meet those needs. As Irene said earlier, it's not just about numbers, it's like delivering public good. So we're really lucky to have an expert panel lined up today. And firstly, we have a visitor from Liz Hamilton, who's the Director of Planning in Scotland, just going to talk about housing land requirements. We're then going to have time for the panel and some discussion. And we have Sarah Shaw, the Head of Planning at Glasgow City Council. And we're going to hear from Tony Kane, the Acting Senior Housing Manager at Manager Council, Policy Manager at Alacho. Unfortunately, Mike Staples wasn't able to join us today, but we have an excellent stand-in. Jim Hayton from Scotland's Housing Network. So give us some thoughts on. So I will hand you to us. We've got loads to get through, and we'll have time for questions and answers at the end. Thank you very much.
We all know? Yes. I think this is the non-buzzing one. If not, I'll just use that microphone. No. Hello, everyone. Thank you, first of all, to Gareth and to Stephen for inviting me to come along and participate in today's event. First of all, apologies as well. I don't have any slides, so you're just going to have to listen to me for the next 15 minutes. It's great to see such a diverse audience from a spread of sectors and businesses come along today. And that takes me to my first point. We're all in this together. And that's how I've approached what I'm about to say in the spirit of partnership. I don't think there's anyone attending today that doesn't want to see the right number of homes being delivered in Scotland for the people that need them. Or dare I say it, people that aspire to either commence or continue their journey on the housing ladder. When I talk about homes, I'm meaning an all-tenure approach. It's a delivery of all homes, whether private to own or rent, affordable in the shape of social rent, mid-market, or homes for those taking that first step into home ownership. They're all intrinsically linked. For those of you who may not know, Homes for Scotland represents around 200 organisations which together deliver the majority of new homes of all tenures across the country. And so with all this collective experience and expertise, we believe we can talk with some authority on housing delivery and the many challenges that are faced. And people is what it's all about. When talking about NPF4 and new homes delivery, people are first of all guided by the numbers. I'll come on to the land equation shortly. So here we go, the numbers. I hope you're listening carefully. There's the MATLR, the MATHLR, the METHLR, potato, call it what you want. It's the minimum all-tenure housing land requirement, which is something that's come from NPF4. And that's guided by the Honda, the HNBA, the Housing Need and Demand Assessment. That feeds into the LHS, the Local Housing Strategy. And that determines the HST, the Housing Supply Target. Hope you're still listening. And from all of that, new LDPs, local development plans, will need to form the LHLR, the Local Housing Land Requirement. Simple. It's not a degree in planning you need to do this job. It's quantum mathematics might be more helpful. But more seriously, there's a lot of stake in all of that. NPF4 says that the planning system has an important role to play in supporting the delivery of homes which meet our future needs. Of that, there is no doubt. It goes on to say that planning must also enable the delivery of good quality, affordable homes by allocating enough land in the right locations to meet current and future needs and aspirations. The starting point for all of this will be the Mattler numbers, the minimums, which NPF4 also states are expected to be exceeded when forming the local housing land requirement. Well, thank goodness for that, because the Mattlers that are in the adopted NPF4 are frankly scarily low. Overall, the published minimum housing numbers to be delivered over a period of 10 years is just short of 200,000. Compare this to government's figure of 35,000 homes that were required each year, part of the Firm Foundations publication from 2007. It's probably right that we are now questioning where the ambition and policy push has gone in delivering much needed new homes. As a sector, we are firmly of the view that the minimum number of homes required to be built in Scotland each year is 25,000. And have calculated that the shortfall that's accumulated since the financial crash of 2008 is running at around about 110,000. So in summary, we need to get our skates on, especially if the government has any chance of delivering their affordable homes target of 110,000 by 2032. It also needs to recognise and respect the strong interdependencies that exist between private sector, new homes delivery and affordable homes. So why are the numbers so low? Well, the Honda toolkit, the HNDA, is at the root of the minimum numbers, and it's drastically poor at identifying real needs and demand. As a minimum, the toolkit doesn't require local authorities to undertake any primary research. In other words, going out to ask people what their needs are. If I were to visit a school and ask the kids how to find out what it is people need, I'm sure one of the first answers would be, well, let's go and ask them. The Honda doesn't require local authorities to do that as a minimum. They can choose to do it. I recently interviewed my 12-year-old niece about homes, and I asked her, who do you think needs new homes? She said, well, old people like my grandparents who struggle getting up and down the stairs. Young people who are moving out of their family homes. People who are starting families who need bigger houses. And also people that may come from other countries to move here. But I'm going to offer her a job, because I thought that was a brilliant answer, and I did not prompt her with that one. But the Honda doesn't require local authorities to look at any of those needs, nor does it allow for aspirational demand. It takes an extremely restricted view of need, counting homelessness and only one other need, being the overcrowded household with more than one family unit living under one roof. That's it. As for the demands part of the Honda toolkit, well, that looks to the past, but at the future, using completion figures from a post-global recession time, and also looking to replicate critical undersupply into the future. How does this help areas in decline wanting to boost their housing numbers in order to combat the social, economic and environmental deficits that may exist? Or what about the areas with severe affordability issues due to a drastic lack of historical new supply? The toolkit also doesn't appear to sense check its affordability assumptions against how the market is actually performing at that time. Unfortunately, as a result of all these factors, the outcomes from the Honda are artificially dragging down housing targets. It is concerning that a number of the Honda processes are already completed for the next LDPs that are set to come without any primary research having been undertaken. In other words, actually going out and asking people. A lot of these Hondas are signed off by the Scottish Government as being robust and credible because they tick the boxes as the minimum data required. But in Homes for Scotland's view, they're not robust and credible because they don't come anywhere near to reflecting true need and demand. Is there still time to correct this at the evidence report and gate check stage of new LDPs? Yes, there is. The Honda toolkit is only one part of the evidence base for setting the numbers. Primary research, household surveys can be done to bolster the figures and provide real-time data of need and aspiration. Surely this is a must for any local authority requiring to evidence their housing numbers. Homes for Scotland undertook a case study for the Clyde Plan area a couple of years ago. We did this in partnership with Betty and Diffley. We developed an easy and robust approach available to local authorities wishing to gather primary evidence of actual housing needs beyond the secondary data created by the toolkit. And I'm happy to give more information on that either after the event or as part of the panel discussion. Growth assumptions within the toolkit can be maximised and help to increase the final number. There are local authorities who increased their minimum number significantly through the passage of NPF4 by taking an ambitious view of how they tackle the housing crisis in their area and attract critical social and economic investment. There's a wide evidence base that can be pulled on, including policy factors like how a local authority can combat population decline, or existing raw data such as housing waiting lists. Homes for Scotland is already in discussions with some local authorities to support them in promoting a local housing land requirement number that more accurately reflects their housing needs and demands. Having been left with, in a lot of cases, an underwhelming Matler figure that doesn't even match the previous 10-year completions. We're also in discussions with the Scottish Government regarding a review of the Honda Toolkit, and I can see that we're going to be busy over the next few months. But that's numbers. So what about getting the land part right? In relation to housing delivery, NPF4 aims to be less focused on numbers and more focused on delivery. This is positive, caveated with what I've just said about the numbers. The next new style local development plans are expected as part of their delivery programme to create a deliverable housing land pipeline in order to meet the local housing land requirement. The pipeline should be split into three categories of short, medium and long-term housing sites. The forming of this pipeline will be absolutely critical in ensuring that enough land is delivered, especially given that the stated fix for an under-delivering pipeline is in reality not likely to bear much fruit, given it only allows for the longer-term sites to be brought forward. Generally, sites that are placed in a longer-term bracket are there for a reason and not that easy to bring forward quickly. It's fair to say that our sector is very concerned with the long-term site bracket and the danger that same sites that haven't delivered in the past are put in there again, or that new allocations will lack the evidence base needed to prove their longer-term deliverability. We're moving to 10-year plans from what are currently 5-year plans, so this is all really critical. It will be important for pipelines to recognise lead-in times in relation to how long it takes from allocation and from planning submission to having the first homes built on site. It will also need to be realistic about how many completions can be expected to be delivered for each site, depending on its location and product type. Research published last year by Litchfield, titled Start to Finish, using Edinburgh as an example, found that on average it took 2 to 3 years from first consent for the first homes to be delivered on site. It also looked at timelines for when sites of varying sizes from small to large can be expected to complete. This type of real-time data will be essential in mapping out the completions timeline for new 10-year plans. So what does this all mean? Well, pipeline sites are going to have to be investigated at a granular level before they are included and deemed to be deliverable. This will require true partnership working between local authorities and the housing sector, including Homes for Scotland and its members. The same mistakes simply can't be made again by reallocating the same sites that have been proven not to deliver year after year, plan after plan. Helpfully, there is a mandate in NPF4 that allows for sites to be deallocated where they're no longer deliverable. So deliverability, what do we actually mean by that? So there has to be a clear definition of what is a deliverable site. Homes for Scotland, and HOPS, another acronym, Heads of Planning Scotland, we've been engaging together already with a view to agreeing rules of engagement for new style housing land audits. And we've largely come to agreement on the parameters that determine how effectiveness, or in new language, deliverability should be tested. Examples of deliverability include who owns or controls the site, any physical infrastructure constraints and marketability. Scottish Government have also seen this and we await publication of their own housing land audit guidance later this year. The concept of field of dreams simply doesn't apply. It's not as simple as allocate it and they will come. There must be an evidence basis for each allocation in the housing land pipeline, whether an old site or a new site. This means no more sites where the owner isn't willing or able to sell. For example, land in public ownership that, despite being allocated, fails to be brought to the market. Generally speaking, a developer in control of a site and actively investing in it is a good sign of its deliverability potential. There can't be any more sites with current business uses that have no prospect of coming to an end in the planned period, or sites where market saturation simply can't support the level of land release being proposed. I could go on. There are many examples of currently allocated sites that are essentially clogging up the land supply. Hopefully we can get it right next time to the new plans. On that note, we await publication of the local development plan guidance from Scottish Government, and we understand this will be coming in the next few weeks, because it needs to be in place before the LDP regs actually come into force. Will this contain guidance on how local authorities are expected to prepare the housing land pipeline? We hope so. In England, there is the SLA, another acronym, death by acronyms, Strategic Housing Land Availability Assessment Process, something that was developed post the Barker Review in 2003, which sought ways of delivering more homes through a responsive approach to land supply at a local level. Well, it's not perfect. It undertakes a collaborative review of all sites. So again, back to that partnership working. Objectively assesses their deliverability potential and then forecasts a trajectory, easy for me to say, trajectory of completions versus the housing requirement. We need a similar process in Scotland. And there must be a consistency across Scotland as well in order to scrutinise the pipeline. We can't have 32 different approaches with varying levels of success. However, the pipeline is derived, one thing is for sure, and that's to have any chance of delivering the number of new homes that Scotland needs. The local housing land requirement and their pipelines will need to generously and ambitiously allocate sites, particularly with the dawn of 10-year plans and a much more restricted environment bringing new allocations. I'm deliberately not going to cover brownfield versus greenfield, given what lies ahead in the next session. However, I will say that it's simply not as straightforward as saying brownfield good and greenfield bad. It's much more nuanced than that. Delivery is key alongside policy considerations, including how land can address the climate and nature crisis. I'm going to stick my neck in the line and say that greenfield sites are just as capable of doing this as brownfield. Don't get me wrong, our members will happily build on either as long as they are deliverable. But there must remain a balance of both types of land and future pipelines, recognising the advantages of both. So to conclude, why is all of this critical? Well, we're currently in a period of transition into a new planning system following the adoption of NPF4. The delays and uncertainties created around this new regime mean that only now are local authorities able to commence the preparation of their new style local development plans with any degree of confidence. With many local authorities predicting adoption of their next LDP by 2027-2028, this is a concerning environment for those in need of land opportunities in order to build the homes that Scotland needs. Many LDPs across Scotland are already beyond or about to be their 5-year lifespan. Current available deliverable land is quickly drying up, with no ability for more to be allocated until new plans are put in place. It would be apparent from the recent transitional guidance from the Chief Planner that any shortfalls accumulated in the meantime, current LDPs, may not be suitably addressed by bringing forward more land. Surely the intention of this advice was not to further restrict the land available to build much needed new homes on. And surely the existing local development plans until new ones come into force must continue to fulfil their housing obligations. NPF4 is here to stay. New style local development plans are coming forward. Now is the time to make the system work. Scotland must and can solve the national housing crisis. Genuine cross-sector partnership working is the only way we'll get there. Thank you very much for your attention.